What can you learn, how much can you take away in the spring about maybe how you'll scheme for a certain guy come fall, right? You have a lot of new faces there, receiver. How much can you take away? How much can you learn during the spring about maybe things that you'll do come fall based on what you learn?
Yeah, that's a good question because of the new additions at the wide receiver. You know, with the transfers, the 3 transfers, and the new high school with Cam Courtney. So those are 4 guys that we needed to do a really good job this spring of assessing their skills, along with installing in our offense. So, you know, through one-on-ones versus our DBs and being able to see can these guys win versus press coverage. And then in our 7-on-7, we put a lot of emphasis on the 7-on-7 piece just so we can work on the spacing and timing in the passing game and for those guys to learn the offense and how they fit into it. And then when in the team setting, we play, you know, we had those opportunities to scrimmage during the spring and to see how they compete when it's a full scrimmage type deal, right? And it's just more than just catching the football. It's you know, blocking in the run game. So I've been pleased with that group of guys, you know, and even more pleased with JR. I like this 2024 JR Wilson, you know, and needs to continue on that climb that he's been on. And now we just created some really good quality depth, you know, in that room, which we're going to need. You know, that was something that we were deprived of a little bit last year. It became very focalized in that who we were going to with the football. And I think hopefully we can be a little bit better distributed. And, you know, that's not counting the tight end room, you know, as we add some guys into the mix this summer, that hopefully we could be really diverse in the passing game.
I was going to say, with your tight ends, I know you're waiting on Neville to get to Charlottesville, and then Sage to get healthy. Have you learned anything about the tight ends that you have?
I did, and a lot of emphasis on these younger guys because I want to put on film like what some things that we can teach off of to Tyler and Sage when they come in this summer and when Sage returns to the field, but also gave us an evaluation of a Carson Gay, you know, a Takai Kirby, guys of that nature, and see, you know, what can they add, you know, in this room, because there's no secrets about it, right? When the 2 guys that transfer here, when we get to fall camp, they're going to get every opportunity, you know, in fall camp. So for these 15 practices, you know, that's really a time for Carson, Takai, Duke, Hayden Rollison, you know, whoever's at tight end, to show what can you bring to us as a tight end. You know, and then when you get to the fall, you just got to really maximize those opportunities you do get, even though they may be minimal, at least early on, so we can get a true evaluation of Tyler and Sage.
You mentioned JR. Where is he most improved? What do you see in his game that wasn't there this past fall?
It's really just maturity and consistency, because he's always had the skill, right? Now he's mature in his preparation, you know, not just on the field, but, you know, studying the classroom, in the weight room, nutrition, all those type things. You know, he's competing at a higher level because, you know, he's probably in his best condition, you know, not only physically but mentally. He's in a good headspace. So, you know, I really like this guy that we have right now, and he's had a good spring. You know, he's even become a little bit more vocal in that regard, which is good. You need some leadership to arise, you know, in the skill area, aside from an offensive lineman. You know, there's some strong leadership there in that group of guys. We need some of these skilled guys to step up as well to the forefront. You know, really challenging Malik. You know, we're challenging Sadarian Harrison. You know, we're challenging, you know, any of those guys in those rooms, particularly that have been here. And then the guys that came in, you know, hey, Chris Tyree, man, you're a guy that's been around college football for a while, right? You're a sharp kid, you're a smart guy, right? People respect you. Like, you know, everybody leads in different ways, but our skill, you know, even when Tyler Neville comes in and Sage is around, like these older guys that have played a lot more football than probably some of our current guys, like, need to bring some leadership to this offense as well.
Gotcha. Last one from me. Do you feel like you have enough depth at running back? I know you guys have some players out this spring, but do you feel like you have enough depth, or is that an area you might want to add in?
Well, you know, we didn't have all of our guys to compete this spring, so we're fortunate that for Kobe and Dante and Noah, they got a lot of work, right? And really gave us the opportunity to evaluate Dante and Noah as 2 young kids. You know, Xavier Brown has played. He's missed a lot of time, but we feel like we kind of know what we have in Xavier. We know what we have in Greasy, right? And we value Greasy, in that mix. Selfishly, yes, I would like to, have another runner just because that position, is so beat up on, week to week. And but that's to be determined, just with the management of the roster. But with those 5 guys there, we have good quality depth. But yeah, I'm always looking for another runner.
Thanks, Des.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, it's a little loud in here.
No problem.
You mentioned Deb right there in the running back room, but looking a little bit wider at the offense as a whole, how hard is it to kind of assess where you guys are when you do have so many injuries, specifically in the line?
Yeah. Well, it starts with if those guys that are practicing on the O-line, because again, they're in competition as well, kind of similar to what I alluded to with the tight ends. And if they're competing and producing, then we are having success in spring ball. And there was times, that's the good thing about spring ball, the back and forth. But there were several days where you felt really good about, what that group of kids that were out there put forward, because we're challenging Blake Steen to take a next step, right? We're challenging Uganda to take the next step, right? We're challenging Noah Hartsoe, all right, to take the next step, right? Charlie Patterson, right? Jack Whitmer, all these guys that have kind of been in the program now for 2 years, some of them maybe 3. We got to take the next step, because you know what? Maybe this is all preparation for the fall. Yes, I would love for, Boley and Josie and Brian Stevens and Ty Furnish and Jimmy Chris to play every snap if they can next year, but it may be a situation where they get dinged up, and these 15 practices we have hopefully builds enough confidence for those kids that are competing right now in the spring, and confidence in us as coaches that they can go out there and play for us and we not skip a beat. And there's been flashes of that's been really good consistently, and then there's been some times where it hasn't been as good, so those guys still got to take another step in order to really put themselves in that mix come the fall. And then with that, right, so it does put a little strain sometimes when you're trying to put it all together in the run game and the passing game. But with the pass scale and some of the inside run things we do that kind of separates it out, gives us a really good evaluation tool of those guys, whether they're a lineman or a skill guy.
Portal is open now too. Calandra mentioned, I guess, on Monday that he took about 12 players down to Florida to train during the offseason. How pivotal are actions like that, especially from your young players, when we're in this age of people transferring in and out all the time?
Yeah, it's that used to be the way it was, right? And I think Calandra and some of these guys, right, they're seeing everybody wants to play in the NFL, and that's kind of what you see on social media, right, where the receivers or skill guys are going to meet up with the quarterbacks this time of the year to do some throwing, stuff like that. And it's great because, in this whole deal for us to take the next step, right, the accountability, the relationships, the tighter we become as not only the offensive unit, but as a team, right, hopefully translates to us playing more, consistently better for each other, because I'm playing for my teammate. I'm not a selfish guy, and we're putting it all together to go win, because that's what the bottom line is, right? And that's something we talked about offensively this spring with the collection of guys who are coming back that have played, and with the addition of some new guys, right? How fast can we become an offensive unit, cohesive, right, to be dominating, right? We're not just trying to win, right, but to be able to dominate, you got to perform at a high level consistently, right, to impose your will on the opponent.
And then last one for me, obviously you have your hands full with spring ball right now, but we do have the draft coming up, so how locked in will you be on that, and what will your communication be with Malik over that weekend?
I tell you, I'm super, super proud of Malik, going back to knowing him out of high school and kind of tracking his career at Northwestern, and had an opportunity for him to join us here. And, he had some personal goals that he set when he came here and achieved that. I wish we could have achieved some things as a team a little bit better. And then to see some of the pre-draft talks that's going on, I'm super happy for him, because he's put it all in there, man. He's earned everything that's coming forward to him. And I'm excited to see where he goes, because whoever drafts him, they're getting him a damn good football player, a guy that competes, a guy that loves football, a guy that's smart, and he's going to have a hell of a career.
Hey Des, I just wanted to ask, I know Tony's coming off the surgery this offseason, and I know quarterbacks are usually, you can't get so close to them in the spring game anyway, but are there any kind of extra limitations? Do you have a bubble that you might put around them?
No, I mean, our team, has matured and done a good job, when there's instances when they get to the quarterback, like we teach our guys how to buzz and stay away from our quarterbacks, so they've all been protected in that regard. Nobody, they won't be live on Saturday. But Tony still, from practice 1 to practice 15, some of the biggest growth I've seen with him is just becoming more comfortable of knowing that, okay, you know what, my shoulder's not bothering me. I don't have free range of motion. And he got back into the rhythm and routine, after those first couple of practices. There was a little rush, right? Because he's trying to make sure he can feel actually throwing that football and what that feels like. There's a defender that may buzz by him, and you got to feel that as well. So that's where I see a lot of his growth is just kind of getting back comfortable of being in that pocket, even though it's a little bit restricted, and with the mechanics of throwing the football from his shoulder. He's escaped and he's run and moved around. He's moving well. Both guys are. He and Calandri, and Frakes has done a good job with that, as well as Grady.
Yeah, because I remember he had a couple runs last spring game, so I don't know if you want him doing that.
No, I mean, if it happens, they should just tag him off. We won't be tackling him, so he'll be in the orange jersey. So.
Yeah. And then just kind of, I know we've talked about kind of the quarterback battle, and you're kind of saving that for the fall once everyone's kind of full go. But how much progress have you seen from those guys, and are they kind of where you want to be at the end of spring practice?
So progress-wise, through the 14 practices, because today was practice 14, some of the progress I've seen, some of the point of emphasis we made from the start, just as an offensive unit, is value, taking pride and take care of the football, right? With the turnovers that we had last year, when we go back and self-scout them, 8 of them in scoring territory, right? That really impacts the game. So, that was a big point of emphasis of taking care of the football, protecting the program, as we talk about. And then the second aspect of protecting the program is protecting the quarterback, right? Diminishing the sacks that happen, and everybody played a role in that when we go back and look at the self-scout. So when I look at the quarterbacks, right, early on, naturally, unfortunately it happens, but we were turning the ball over. And then you've seen stretches where we go through a practice and there's no turnovers, right? And that's winning football, and the back and forth. So, our defense may have one or so that day, but it's still the emphasis of, hey, making smart decisions, get the ball out, don't put the ball in jeopardy, and taking care of the football. And we simulated some red zone situations, obviously the third down situations, and just trying to increase the football IQ, not only of the quarterbacks, but of the whole team and offense in particularly. Because if we can close that gap and increase our intelligence as a football team, that's going to allow us to play and finish these games that, we've come up short by 3 or, 4 or 7, and it's a missed assignment, or a turnover at a costly time that's impacted us. So.
Ask you about Malik. I'm curious, as a play caller, as a coach, you had to figure out how to get him open late last year because everyone knew you were throwing him the ball. Did you learn anything from that you can carry forward? Maybe not for one player, but just to kind of be able to change things up or disguise things. What did you kind of learn from that experience?
Yeah, so kind of twofold. One, I give a lot of credit to Malik because his football aptitude and smarts, right? So he allowed me to do that because he could handle it, right? To motion him in different spots and understand the big picture of the concept and how he fits. So that's what I learned from that is, hey, let's try to teach these guys that we have now in that same fashion, right? Whether it's walkthroughs in our meetings, right? Spring practice, and stress them, right? And put them in a situation so we get on tape and now they can learn from it. So if we're motioning or we're shifting or we're doing different things and calling, same plays, putting you in a different spot so you understand the full concept, so that if we get into that situation next year due to injuries or whatever, and we have a limited guys that we can go to, they will at least have a foundation of know how to be in different spots and execute. No different than what Malik did for us this past year. And I think that's what's going to be a separating factor for him in the NFL. In my time coaching in the league and as a player, like, it's not so much the talent, it's really the acquisition of knowledge and applying it on the field. is what separates guys. And Malik's one of those guys who can, acquire the knowledge from the meeting room and take it right to the practice field and apply it. He's a really good learner.
Take one more question, guys, if anybody's got one.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
Darian had mentioned earlier this spring how much he thought he learned from Malik just from watching Malik go through practice last year. Can you see parts of that Darian's knowledge that he picked up maybe?
Yeah, I think Darian is because he's never played receiver until this past year, and his learning curve has increased, right? And one of the things hopefully he took from Malik was how Malik attacked practice. Like every rep was a game rep, right? Every rep was a game rep. Hopefully a lot of our guys took that from Malik. And you can see flashes of that from Darian. And as coaches, obviously we want to see it more and see it consistently. But Darian's wired the right way as well. And if we can, I don't know if anybody's going to produce another year like Malik, but if we can collectively pull up those numbers and translate it into wins, we'll all be happy.